You may be aware of that trend that was going on somewhat recently on social media where women were being asked, would they rather be alone with a man or a bear? Well, we may need to update that question to a man or a shark. Thank you for joining me here for my review of Dangerous Animals, the new film from Sean Byrne, and that's why I was looking forward to this, because he made The Loved Ones and The Devil's Candy, both horror movies that I very much recommend, but it's been a while. Devil's Candy was like 2017, and I was like, where has he been? I need a new movie from Sean Byrne. And then, we got one! Although, I was still a little skeptical when it was announced, because as much as I wanted him to make another film, he was making a shark movie. And I'm like, how many good shark movies are there? Arguably just the one. And even if you think it's more than one, you probably don't think it's that many. But, turns out, this is really not a shark movie. It's a serial killer movie. The killer just kills his victims by feeding them to sharks.
Not everybody needs a hobby.
So it's kind of a unique blend of a serial killer movie and a creature feature, and I thought it was a lot of fun. Jai Courtney plays the shark-obsessed serial killer, and I never knew that I needed him in a role like this. First thing I ever saw him in was Jack Reacher, and he was pretty good in that as the villain. But then, Hollywood really wanted him to be like this leading man type. He was in things like Die Hard and Terminator, and it just wasn't really working. Whenever he was cast in a lot around that time, the common sentiment seemed to be people rolling their eyes, like, we're not connecting with this guy. He doesn't really have the charisma for these roles that you're trying to put him in. But then when he was in Suicide Squad, we realized that he kind of works as like a goofy side guy. And I haven't seen him in anything since The Suicide Squad, which he was in for like 5 minutes. But wow, this is the best I've ever seen him. And I think he can absolutely carve out a niche for himself doing like weird character actor shit, because he is so much fun. This movie is worth watching just for his performance. He's very intimidating. He's a very large man. He's clearly not mentally stable at all. He's also completely absurd and ridiculous. Just the things that he does, the things that he says, this entire ritual where he takes these women out in his boat into the open ocean and has this entire thing that he does where he lowers them down for the sharks and films it, and just his whole behavior is so crazy that this character is just endlessly fun to watch. He's always comparing things to sharks and fish and making these metaphors. The main girl tells him at one point, like, you really love to hear yourself talk, and he does. In summation, he's a bit of a freaky fish guy.
I am not a freaky fish guy!
And he nails it. He nails the cold, intimidating factor where it feels like he's in control and that he is a legitimate threat, but also some of the more absurd elements to his character where he's just going off the deep end and losing control. He's great. I have never really in my life said I can't wait to see Jai Courtney in more things, but I am saying that now. So good for him. I hope he enjoyed doing this. Maybe he can have a little bit of a resurgence doing things more along these lines. Then you also have Hassie Henderson as the main girl. She was very tough. She was definitely a fighter. She's a character who has been through a lot of shit in her life and is using the skills that she's learned to try to survive against this crazy man, while also kind of having an arc of her own where she learns to soften up and trust and grow as a person. It's a pretty straightforward movie, but there's a little bit deeper underneath the surface. Her being compared to Jai Courtney's character, how they are compared to various marine life in their behavior. And she's good. She's badass enough to where it feels like she genuinely has a fighting chance, and you have these scenes of hope where it feels like maybe she's going to get one over on this guy, but also it does a good job at keeping the tension, keeping the suspense going by having it be a constant back and forth, never really making either one of them look weak, like she's doing everything she can to escape, but also he is scary enough to where he keeps taking care of that every time she does. So there's a good amount of tension as to what is going to happen, especially to some of the side characters, because you really don't know with them. It's a good looking movie. There are some beautiful shots of sharks in the ocean if you ignore the fact that a man is trying to feed people to them. There's one scene in particular that really triggered my, I guess you would call it thalassophobia. It's like a fear of deep bodies of water. It's not quite that simple for me. I don't know if there's a more specific word. I have the fear of the things that are in the water. And not that it would prevent me from like going to the beach. I could do that just fine. Because I know realistically I'm not going to get eaten by a shark. It's just the thought of it. The thought of what could be down there in the cold and the wet and the dark where we cannot survive and they can. Especially in things like movies and video games. When there's characters just submerged and there's a thing and it's coming towards them. Gives me the chills. It's essentially like a childhood fear of the dark. You're afraid of the unknown, but as you get older, you realize there's probably nothing in the dark. There is shit in the ocean. But there's one scene in particular that definitely gave me goosebumps where somebody's just in the water and there's some shit in there, and I'm like, nope, absolutely not. There's also a character played by Josh Houston, who our main girl forms a little bit of a romance with. And at first, I wasn't sure how I really felt about his side of the story because she's obviously kidnapped and out on the boat in the middle of the ocean. And we just cut back to him every now and then and seeing what he's doing and how he's looking for her. And it kind of felt like prerequisite, like we just have to show that people are looking for her to pad out the runtime because we can't just have the entire movie take place on the boat. There's not really enough to do just there to fill the entire feature length. But as that side of the story went on and as we learned more about him and it became more integrated with the main side of the story, I realized, okay, those scenes were necessary. I am glad that he is a part of the movie. He's adding a considerable amount, and the relationship that forms between them I actually really liked. It's definitely a straightforward horror thriller, but there are a few good moments of comedy in there, like I said, just from the absurdity of a lot of Jai Courtney's character's behavior, and just a few funny lines in there. As for some negatives, it does get a little cheesy, especially towards the end with some of the dialogue. I didn't really mind it that much. There's nothing wrong with having a little bit of sincerity, a little bit of genuine character building in the middle of a horrific situation, but the thing that did it for me was this one particular moment. I'm not going to spoil anything, but essentially there's a scene involving a shark that makes it feel like the film is making a point, like it's really trying to send a message, and then the scene immediately after that directly contradicts that message. So instead of feeling like it was making a point, it now feels like it was just kind of like a cheesy movie logic type thing, and it's done for the purpose of narrative satisfaction, and it is satisfying. This second scene that happens is really good, really enjoyable, but they clearly had to compromise a little bit with the point that they had made just seconds prior. It's not a really big deal. It's not the kind of movie you go to for this kind of message, but it felt like that's what they were saying, and it felt realistic and well done enough. And then it turns out immediately after, oh, I guess that's not really what they were going for. It was just like a cheesy movie thing. Okay. This is very specific, but again, no spoilers. Near the end of the movie, something happens to the main character where we feel a great amount of tension for about 5 seconds, and then they immediately reveal, oh, actually, it's not a problem at all. And it's just this one weird little moment where it's like, why was that in there? You didn't need to have that scene. Cut that out. Other than that, the biggest knock against it is that it is just pretty straightforward. Serial killer on boat, sharks. You know what you're getting. There aren't really a lot of crazy twists and turns for it to take. It's a pretty simple thrill ride, but it is thrilling and it is fun. It's probably my least favorite of Sean Byrne's 3 films. The Loved Ones is just fucking nuts. That movie is crazy. And then The Devil's Candy, I think, is a really interesting look at like devil, demonic possession type movies, and just really interesting father-daughter relationship and the way he uses music in that movie and some of the deeper messaging there. Really like those movies a lot. Enjoyed this one too, though. I think he's 3 for 3. I hope it doesn't take him like 8 more years to make another one. I hope this one makes some money. Hopefully it will. Shark movie in the summer. Glad to have you back, Sean Byrne. I hope you stay back. Glad to have you back, Jai Courtney. There's another shark movie that I like now. There just are not very many at all. And even though it's not really completely a shark movie, sharks are very prominent, so we'll say that it counts. Shark movies are like exorcism movies. There's the one. They did it the one time. They basically covered it. And every other time after that, it's like, we already did this. Interestingly enough, there is an exorcism movie coming out the same week as this shark movie. So we'll see how that goes. But I enjoyed this. I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. I definitely recommend it if you want a fun time. But that about covers it for what I have to say for now on Dangerous Animals. So leave your thoughts down in the comments, whether you agree, disagree, whatever you want to talk about. We can do it down there. Thank you so much. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more from me. I appreciate the support, and I'll see you next time.